never planned on coming back home. Not really. After college, I'd sworn to myself that the little house at the end of Willow Creek Lane would be a memory I could box up and keep on a shelf somewhere far away. But life has a funny way of pulling you back to the places you least want to go. It was my mother's voice on the phone that did it. She sounded smaller than I remembered, her words quivering like brittle leaves in the wind. "Just for the weekend," she said. "The house feels too big now, and I'd love to see you." I didn't argue. I packed a bag, telling myself it was only temporary. Just a few days, and then I'd be gone again. Driving up the long, cracked driveway, I couldn't help but notice how time had worn the place down. The paint on the shutters was peeling, the porch sagged a little, and weeds had claimed the once perfect flower beds. But it was still home, and stepping onto that porch, I felt something inside me loosen, like an old scar aching in the cold. The smell hit me first when I walked inside. That mix of cedar polish, faint dust, and something faintly sweet, like the cookies my mother used to bake when I came home from school. It was a smell that belonged to childhood, to a time before things got complicated. And like clockwork, my eyes went to the corner of the living room, the spot where Max's bed used to be. Max was my childhood dog, a golden retriever with ears too big for his head and eyes that looked at you like you were the most important person in the universe. He'd been my shadow through every scraped knee, every tearful night, every argument that rattled the walls of this house. When I was 10, he died suddenly. My parents said it was old age, but Max wasn't that old. I cried myself sick for weeks. Even now, decades later, standing in that room, I swear I could hear his nails clicking on the floorboards. Mom hugged me in the kitchen, holding on longer than usual. "You look thin," she said automatically, brushing my hair back like I was still 15. I smiled and let her fuss. But part of me was already restless, already itching with the unease of being back under this roof. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. I couldn't sleep, tossing in the narrow bed I'd abandoned years ago. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and wandered downstairs. The house was darker than I remembered, shadows stretching long across the walls. That's when I saw it. On the kitchen table, where my mother always left the mail, sat a single envelope. No stamp, no return address. Just my name written in a hand I didn't recognize. Curiosity tugged at me. I opened it carefully, sliding out a single sheet of paper. The handwriting inside was neat, almost childlike. "I've missed you. Do you still remember me? I used to wait by the window for you after school. I still do, in a way. You were my whole world. There are things you don't know, things they never told you. Follow the trail. It starts where I slept. Max." My heart stopped. Max. I read it again, my hands shaking. My dog. My dead dog. I wanted to laugh it off. Some sick joke, a prank by a neighbor maybe. But no one outside the family knew the little details in that letter. Waiting by the window, sleeping in the corner of the living room. That was Max. That was us. I folded the letter quickly, tucking it back into the envelope like it might burn me if I held it too long. But the words were already carved into me. Follow the trail. It starts where I slept. I went to the corner of the living room, the place where Max's bed used to be. The carpet looked the same as always, maybe a little more worn. But when I crouched down, running my hand across it, I felt something shift beneath the fibers. A loose floorboard. My pulse raced. I pried it up with trembling fingers, heart thundering in my ears. Beneath it, wrapped in faded fabric, was another envelope. This one was thicker, heavier. My breath caught as I pulled it free. Inside was a folded stack of yellowed paper. The handwriting was the same. "If you're reading this, it means you've finally come back. You always trusted them, but you shouldn't have. I saw things. I heard things. The truth isn't what you think. You were never meant to know. But secrets rot, and this house is full of them. Don't stop now. Look where the light comes in." I froze, my skin prickling. Where the light comes in. The window. Max's favorite spot. I turned slowly, eyes landing on the wide living room window. The moonlight spilled through, painting silver streaks across the floor. Something deep inside me whispered that if I looked closer, if I followed the trail, I'd find more. And for reasons I still can't explain, I wasn't scared. I was hungry. Hungry for the truth Max, or whoever was behind these letters, wanted me to see. The clock read 3 a.m. when I pressed my palm against the window frame. The wood was rough under my hand, chipped from years of sun and storms. And then, just like the floorboard, I felt it. A groove where there shouldn't be one. A hidden compartment. With a sharp tug, the panel came loose. Inside, folded so tightly it had nearly become part of the wall, was another letter. This one chilled me before I even opened it. Because written on the outside, in the same childish script, were the words, "Don't trust them. Especially her." The words on the envelope blurred as my eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight filtering through the window. Don't trust them. Especially her. Her. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the paper inside, praying for answers, but knowing I'd only find more questions. The letter read, "You think you remember everything, but you don't. There are nights they hoped you'd forget." I didn't. I watched. I listened. The truth was buried beneath bedtime stories and warm dinners. Don't let them fool you. If you want proof, go where you used to hide when you were scared. The closet. The one that smelled of cedar. It's waiting for you there. I sat frozen. the words sinking into me like shards of ice. My childhood closet, the cedar smell. I remembered it instantly. Every thunderstorm, every fight that broke out downstairs. I'd curl up in that tiny space, surrounded by my own clothes and the faint scent of cedar from the old chest that had been stored there since before I was born. Max used to paw at the door until I let him in. He'd press against me, warm and steady, while I cried into his fur. That closet had been my sanctuary. And now, apparently, my next clue. I stood slowly, the letter still clutched in my hand. The house creaked around me as though it was holding its breath. My parents' bedroom was upstairs, their door shut tight. If they caught me rummaging around at this hour, I didn't want to imagine the questions, but I couldn't stop now. The old stairs groaned under my weight as I crept up, careful not to let the wood betray me. My childhood room smelled faintly of lavender and dust. The posters on the walls had faded, but everything else was eerily untouched, as if my mother had preserved it like a shrine. I crossed to the closet and pulled the door open. The cedar scent hit me instantly. Sharp, earthy, unmistakable. My chest tightened with a strange mix of comfort and dread. I crouched, running my hands along the floor. Dust clung to my skin. At first, I found nothing but old shoes, a broken toy truck, and the edge of the cedar chest. But then my fingertips grazed something taped to the underside of the chest's lid. Another envelope. I pulled it free, heart hammering, and unfolded the letter. Do you remember the night you woke to shouting? You thought it was a dream. It wasn't. You hid in this closet, shaking. I lay against the door, listening. He said it was an accident. She didn't believe him. You cried until morning, and they told you it was thunder. It wasn't thunder. It was the sound of truth breaking. I stared at the words, my stomach twisting violently, shouting. An accident. A lie disguised as thunder. I had fragments of that memory. A night when I woke in terror, the walls vibrating with something I couldn't name. My parents' voices sharp, cutting through the night. I remembered crying in the closet, Max's body pressed against mine, the sound of his heartbeat steady under my cheek. But I believed them when they said it was thunder. I'd wanted to believe. My chest felt tight, panic pressing in. Who was writing these? How could they know such intimate, buried details? Unless it really was Max. The thought was absurd. Impossible. And yet, the letters knew things only Max could have known. The sound of his paws scratching the closet door. The exact way I used to curl up in the corner, knees to my chest. I pressed the letter to my lap, closing my eyes. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, louder than any storm. Footsteps creaked in the hallway. My head snapped up. The doorknob turned slowly. I shoved the letters under the cedar chest and pulled the closet door shut, sinking into the dark. My breath caught in my throat. The door to my bedroom opened. A sliver of light cut across the floor. Sweetheart? My mother's voice, soft, tentative. I didn't move. She stepped inside, her shadow stretching across the floor. Are you awake? I swallowed hard, pressing myself against the closet wall, praying she wouldn't open the door. Silence. Then the sound of her footsteps retreating. The door clicked shut. I exhaled shakily, my hands damp with sweat. Something in her tone hadn't sounded right. Too careful. Too probing. I waited a full 5 minutes before daring to move. And when I finally crawled out of the closet, the air in my room felt heavy, thick with secrets. I retrieved the hidden letters and tucked them under my pillow. My pulse wouldn't slow. Sleep was out of the question. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed, replaying every memory I had of Max, of my parents, of that house. The fights, the silences, the way they'd always brush things off, telling me I was imagining it. And one memory rose above the rest. The night Max died. They said it was old age. They said he passed peacefully in his sleep. But what if they lied? The thought landed like a stone in my chest, too heavy to ignore. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to force it away. But the letters were clear. Don't trust them. Especially her. Especially my mother. The morning light did nothing to settle my unease. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee while Mom hummed at the stove. Dad shuffled in, bleary-eyed, and kissed the top of my head like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. I studied them both carefully. Every word, every glance. Were they keeping something from me? Did they know about the letters? Mom set a plate of pancakes in front of me, smiling too brightly. Sleep okay? I forced a nod. Yeah, fine. Her eyes lingered on me a moment too long, searching. I looked away, pretending to butter my food. Dad cleared his throat. You're quiet this morning. Just tired, I lied. The letters burned in my mind, the weight of them heavy in my pocket where I'd tucked them before coming downstairs. I wanted to scream at them, demand the truth, but something held me back. Max's words, don't trust them. So I smiled, I ate, I played the dutiful child. But inside the questions gnawed at me. What accident? What shouting? And what secret were they so desperate to bury that even my dog had known it? Later that day, when they were both out in the garden, I crept into their room. The air smelled faintly of lavender and mothballs. I went straight to the dresser, pulling open drawers, searching for anything. Letters, journals, scraps of evidence. At first, nothing but clothes and the mundane clutter of their lives. Then, tucked beneath a stack of folded sweaters, I found it, a small wooden box. The latch creaked as I opened it. Inside were old photographs, yellowed at the edges, my parents, younger, me as a baby. And then, Max. My breath caught. It was a photo of Max lying in the backyard, but something was wrong. His fur looked damp, matted. His eyes weren't closed peacefully. They were wide, glassy, dead. I dropped the photo, my hands shaking. Beneath it lay a folded piece of paper. I opened it with trembling fingers. It wasn't in Max's handwriting. It was my father's. We can't ever tell her. She wouldn't understand. Say it was old age. She doesn't need to know the truth about what happened that night. My vision blurred, bile rising in my throat. What happened that night? The door creaked. I spun around, the note still in my hand. My mother stood in the doorway, her eyes fixed on me. "What are you doing in here?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous. Her voice froze me in place. Low, controlled, but laced with a sharpness that made my skin prickle. I turned slowly, the paper trembling in my grip. My mother's eyes locked on it instantly, then shifted to me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she stepped into the room and shut the door behind her. "Where did you find that?" My mouth was dry, my voice barely a whisper. "In the drawer, under your sweaters." She crossed the room in 2 swift strides, her hand outstretched. "Give it to me." Instinct flared, the same instinct that had driven me to hide in that cedar closet as a child. I tightened my grip. "No." Her expression flickered, just for a second, something raw, something afraid, before the mask slipped back into place. "You don't know what you're holding." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me, what happened that night? What did you and Dad hide from me?" She hesitated. Her fingers twitched as if she was fighting the urge to snatch the note away. "It's complicated." "No," I snapped, the years of silence breaking through. "It's not complicated. You lied. You told me Max died in his sleep, but this..." I held up the note. "This says something else. An accident. What happened?" Her lips parted, but before she could speak, the sound of footsteps echoed up the stairs. My father's voice called from below. "Everything all right up there?" My mother's eyes went wide. She grabbed my wrist, yanking me closer, whispering urgently. "Don't say a word. Not yet." The door opened, and my father stepped in. His gaze flicked between us, then down to the paper clenched in my hand. His face drained of color. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said softly. I stared at him, the air thick and suffocating. "What happened to Max?" He looked at my mother. She shook her head almost imperceptibly. "Tell me," I demanded. Dad's jaw worked, his hands balling into fists at his sides. "It was an accident. That's all you need to know." My pulse thundered in my ears. "That's not enough. I have letters, do you understand? Letters that say you've been lying to me for years." Their eyes snapped to mine. My mother's face blanched. "What letters?" I cursed myself. I hadn't meant to reveal that. But it was too late. The words hung between us like a noose. Dad took a step closer. His voice dropped. "What letters?" I backed toward the bed, clutching the note like a shield. They came in the mail, addressed to me, from Max." The silence that followed was crushing. Then my mother laughed, a brittle, humorless sound. "That's impossible." "I know how it sounds," my voice cracked, "but they knew things. Things no one else could have known, things only Max saw." Dad's face tightened. He rubbed his temples as though trying to erase the conversation. "This is getting out of hand." My mother's eyes burned into mine. "Where are the letters?" I shook my head. "I'm not telling you." Her tone shifted, soft, coaxing. "Sweetheart, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe your mind is playing tricks. Maybe you wrote them yourself and don't remember." Rage shot through me, hot and blinding. "Don't you dare gaslight me, not after everything." Her expression hardened. For the first time, I saw the cracks in her perfect composure. Dad stepped between us. His voice was quiet, heavy. "We never wanted you to carry this. We thought we could protect you from it." "Protect me from what?" I demanded. He hesitated, then glanced at Mom. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She gave the smallest shake of her head. But Dad's shoulders sagged, as if he could no longer hold the weight. The night Max died, it wasn't natural. He didn't just go in his sleep. The room tilted. My throat constricted. "Then what?" His voice cracked. "He got into something he wasn't supposed to. Poison." Mom snapped. "Stop." He ignored her. "I'd been using it for the shed. Rat poison." I didn't realize Max had gotten into it until it was too late. The words slammed into me, knocking the air from my lungs. Poison. My beloved Max hadn't died peacefully. He'd suffered, silently, because of them. Tears blurred my vision. "And you just... lied? For years? You let me believe he was old and tired, and we were trying to spare you." Mom's voice was sharp, desperate. "You were a child. You wouldn't have understood." I shook my head violently. "I would have understood the truth better than a lie." "Do you know what it's like, finding out like this? Through letters I was never supposed to get?" The word letters hung heavy in the air again. Dad frowned. "Who sent them?" "I told you, they were from Max." Mom scoffed, but her voice shook. "That's impossible." "Then who?" I shouted. "Who knows enough about my childhood, about that closet, About the fights you thought I didn't hear? Who else could know those things? Neither of them answered. I clutched the note tighter. The room spun with betrayal, grief, and rage. If you won't tell me the whole truth, I'll find it myself. I pushed past them, storming out of the room. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my old desk, staring at the letters, the photographs, the damning note from my father. Max's words echoed, "Don't trust them. Especially her. Especially Mom." Why her? The poison explained his death, but not the shouting that night. Not the way Dad had said it was an accident, and she hadn't believed him. There was more. Something darker. And the letters weren't done yet. The next morning, as the mail slipped through the slot, my stomach twisted. I rushed to the door, yanking the stack of envelopes from the floor. There it was. Another letter. The same handwriting. The same return to sender. None. I tore it open with shaking hands. You're closer now. But the poison wasn't the whole truth. Ask her about the basement. Ask her what she kept hidden there while you slept upstairs. Ask her why I never went down with her. The paper trembled in my hands. The basement. A place I hadn't thought about in years. A place Max had always refused to go. My pulse quickened. I looked up from the letter to find my mother watching me from the kitchen doorway. Her smile was thin. Something interesting in the mail? I didn't answer her. I folded the letter slowly, slipping it into my pocket as though it were nothing more than junk mail. But my pulse was racing, pounding in my ears so loud I was sure she could hear it. Mom's eyes lingered on me too long, her smile too tight. Then she turned away, humming faintly as she rinsed a coffee mug. That was her tell. She only hummed when she was trying to appear calm. I excused myself, muttering something about needing air. She didn't stop me. Outside, the November air bit into my skin, crisp and sharp. I pulled my jacket tighter and sat on the porch steps, unfolding the letter again. Ask her about the basement. The basement had been off limits my entire childhood. Whenever I asked why, I was met with vague excuses. Tools you could hurt yourself with? Mold. Too dangerous. Max had never gone down there either. The few times I tried to coax him to the top of the stairs, his hackles would rise. He'd whimper, backing away until his paws scrabbled against the floor. I thought it was just because basements were dark and scary. Now, I wasn't so sure. That night, when my parents finally went to bed, I waited. I sat in my room, fully dressed, every nerve stretched tight. At midnight, I heard their door close. The creak of the floorboards above me quieted. I slipped into the hallway. The house felt alive with silence, the kind that presses against your chest. Step by step, I made my way to the door that led down to the basement. The wood was chipped near the handle like it had been forced open once before. My hand hovered over the knob. My pulse quickened. It turned easily. The smell hit me first. Not dust or mildew, but something metallic, coppery. A faint echo of rot, long scrubbed away, but never truly gone. I clicked on the bare bulb overhead. The staircase plunged down into dim light, shadows pooling in the corners. Every step groaned under my weight. At the bottom, the concrete floor stretched out, mostly bare. Boxes stacked neatly, tools lined against the wall. But one corner was different. The concrete there was a slightly different shade, like it had been patched or poured over more recently. I crouched. The patch was about 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, rectangular. A chill crawled up my spine. I whispered to no one, "No, it can't be." Footsteps creaked above me. I froze. The door at the top of the stairs opened. A figure descended slowly, each step deliberate. My mother. She didn't look surprised to see me there. Her eyes flicked to the patched concrete, then back to me. "I told you to stay out of here." My throat was dry. "What's under this?" She stopped 2 steps above the floor, her face hidden in shadow. "You don't want to know." "Yes, I do." Her jaw tightened. "Then you better sit down." I didn't move. She sighed and stepped off the stair, coming closer. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. You were never supposed to find out." My voice shook. "Find out what?" She looked at the patch of floor. Her hand trembled as she brushed her hair back. It wasn't just Max who died that night. The room spun. My legs weakened. "What?" Her eyes glistened. "There was someone else here. Someone who shouldn't have been." The words hit like a hammer. I shook my head. No, that doesn't make sense." Her voice grew hoarse. "Your father. He had a secret. A woman. She came here that night. She wasn't supposed to. I found them arguing in the kitchen. Max wouldn't stop barking. Everything spiraled. There was shouting. Pushing. She fell. She pointed at the patch of floor. She hit her head. She died instantly." My stomach lurched. Bile burned my throat. "You buried her? Here? In our basement?" Her face crumpled. "We didn't know what else to do. It was an accident, but who would believe us? Your father panicked. I helped him." I staggered back, my shoulder hitting the wall. My voice cracked. "And Max?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "He saw everything. He wouldn't stop scratching at the floor, barking at the patch after we buried her. He wouldn't stay quiet. He knew." She swallowed hard. "We couldn't risk it. Your father put out the poison." The words shattered me. My knees buckled. I slid to the floor, clutching my stomach, gasping for air. All those years. All those nights crying into my pillow, believing Max had died peacefully. All the guilt I'd carried for not being there. And it had been them, my parents. They hadn't just lied. They had murdered his memory to protect their secret. I couldn't breathe. Mom crouched in front of me, her hands reaching for mine. We did it for you. To keep the family together. To protect you from the truth. I jerked my hands away. You don't get to say that. You poisoned my dog. You buried a woman in our basement. You lied to me my entire life. Her face twisted. We didn't have a choice. The letters burned in my pocket. I yanked them out, thrusting them in her face. Then explain this. Who's been sending me these? Who knows everything? Her eyes widened, genuine shock. I don't know, she whispered. I shook the pages, my voice cracking. They told me not to trust you. Especially you. How could anyone else know unless... The thought hit me like lightning. Unless it wasn't someone else at all. Unless it was her. Some part of her trying to confess, to unburden herself, sending them in secret, pretending they were from Max so I'd keep reading. But when I looked into her eyes, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Fear, not of me, of whoever was behind those letters. Before I could speak, the basement light flickered. Once, twice. Then went out. Darkness swallowed us whole. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Then, from somewhere behind us, deeper in the basement, a whisper. Not hers, not mine. A child's voice. I told you I'd never leave.